Superintendent.
Thank you.
Good morning. We're back in action, Senate Agriculture. We're going to spend a few minutes with Farm First and get an overview. We have Angela Shea as far as the on here as clinical director, Farm First. Welcome, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you for proceeding. Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for having us as Farm First. And I've also brought along Mark Adams, Director of Invest EAP.
Yeah.
I'm Angela Shea. I'm a social worker with the Farm First program. Farm First is a program that is within the EAP system for the state, and we support farmers across the state. We offer a hotline, we offer counseling, we offer a peer program, we offer website resources. What makes us unique is that you will get instant care when you call, and you'll get a licensed clinician. No wait, rare that there'll be a wait list, right? So this is a program, I think we all know, I just want to say, I appreciate all of your leadership in this room for this community. I think we all know how critical agriculture is to our identity and our culture within Vermont. And I think we also know how much the struggle is real for our farmers, just like all humans, right? And so anytime there's uncertainty, there's going to be anxiety, there's going to be stress. And when you look at a farmer life, it's a lot of uncertainty, whether that be the weather, whether that be the market, whether that be the economy, whether that be their staffing. And so Farm First is there to be able to help navigate throughout that time, right? So we're there with a supportive check-in, and we're there with counseling, and we're there with resources. We do a lot of outreach in the community. We'll go to farms and we'll put on workshops, psychoeducation. We know that psychoeducation around mental health helps reduce stigma around accessing treatment, stigma around mental health. We know that suicidality is 3 times higher in our ag populations and our construction populations and farming, fishing, hunting. And that's a staggering number, 3 times higher than your general population. And so our work is to be able to like break down those walls and that stigma, have conversations, have workshops, present at conferences, go out to farms, right? So we had a Death by Suicide in Cabot recently in the fall, and we were able to sort of organize, partner with the local fire department, the volunteer fire department, find a farmer to host. We brought dinner. We had a beautiful conversation around what is mental health, how are you doing, what are the signs and symptoms for suicidality, what do we need for resources, what's a coping skill? And that was just a nice way to sort of wrap around that. So we don't hide it, we talk about it, right? And I think the other thing is it's unique to be thinking about meeting the farmer where they're at. Yes, Farm First is for farmers, but it's also for their family members. And that's a really unique thing to say they're along this ride too. And that's not easy. And so, for example, up north, we had a farmer who was struggling with a significant mental health issue, really significant. They actually got connected, they got stabilized. The farm was really worried about the wife. And they said, this wife is just like more witness to all of this. And that's really intense. The farm owner called me up and said, I really need someone for this wife. She's got a 2-month wait list at her local mental health agency. I saw her by Friday. She's in her truck. She's checking in with me. It's not uncommon for people to be wandering around their fields being like, hold on, I think I've got service, right? We're going to meet them where they're at, whether that be phone, sometimes text, sometimes Zoom, and varying hours, because we know that that population needs it. Right? Very humbling to work a 15-hour day, as some of you might know, right? A 15-hour day out there in the field, working, right? Managing their family, managing stress, managing bedtime, managing family dynamics that are complicated, right? So I just wanted to touch on that. I hope I'm covering it, trying to hit all these points here.
Well, I just want to say
Yes.
that Senator Major started a lot of questioning a while ago. And I think it opened up all our eyes. And then we met with another Senator Major. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I just I was dumbfounded and more because I just was blindsided at the amount of it. And I in my business I use Invest EAP, and it is a godsend. And shocked at the amount of services, how you do it. I have no idea that it extends to family members as well. You know, from financial to I can't stress enough. And then when you just said it for farmers, I mean, it's perfect. So
we got the farmers in.
yeah, and And so,
we're starting talking about, well, this one and that one,
Yeah.
and that one and this one.
yeah. So you had me at hello.
Great.
Yes,
So just, we had Government Operations Committee yesterday. We had Beth Vestigi come in, who's the Commissioner of Human Resources. And they've got their own EAP. EAP is Employee Assistance Program, by the way, for all state workers. But this is an independent, separate EAP. Okay,
Yeah, so,
that's just for farmers.
so we're the Invest EAP
you
is
just gotta tell
this,
who you are. even
Oh,
though you
sorry.
don't.
Mark Adams, I'm the director of Invest EAP. Thank you, sir. So Invest EAP is the EAP for the state of Vermont. All the workers are covered under our EAP.
Oh.
So we have about 300 accounts, the Aquatic Center being one of those accounts across a book of business.
Okay.
And so 30 plus years ago, Hireability, Diane Dalmas, who is the director there and the former director of Invest EAP, got by statute to be able to charge businesses like an EAP to provide this service. And so over the years, we've grown to about 300, companies that we serve. We have, I think, about 160,000 covered lives that we support. And that's folks that are the employer itself, their employees, and then all the family members that live in those households. Over time, and I think it was 2009, Steve and Diane, it was during one of the many dairy crises around that process, said we need to be doing this for farmers. And so they just launched into providing our service into farmers, and we've been grappling and struggling to find funds to make that all work. We've gotten a lot of grants over the years to sort of grow and blossom. But the grant world has changed markedly in the last few years, including the economy has changed. And so businesses have had trouble being able to afford, our care and our benefit. So our ability to support Farm First sort of with all the bells and whistles has decreased. So we used to have a Farm First coordinator who was sort of a resource person that if someone called and they were having trouble finding feed, we could make them connect to the right services in the ag community to get to feed. If they were having trouble with some legal stuff, we can connect them to a legal person to help them sort of think through what they might need to do. Succession planning. We have partnerships with groups in Vermont that have that expertise, as well as they get connected to legal and financial support around that. So we've just translated the benefit in essence that you and your team has at Aquatic Center to farmers at no cost to them. And that was one of the things that that Diane and Steve thought was really important. We've just been kind of grinding through and keeping that alive. And we have a couple of other sort of specialized services. We have a Secure, which is an EAP for first responders. And then some of you may have heard about that. So that's another group that we sort of, they're special communities that need special kinds of outreach. EAP First, reaches out to first responders. They're a very special group around wellness and mental health. You have to be, you have to be in their world to be a partner with them. And so that's why we developed Secure through a peer program. Farmers are also very different. They are very independent. They don't like to ask for help. That's not part of their nature. And so we have to sort of find places where it's a little easier to ask for help about, well, I've got this weird thing happening with, my machinery. I can't get anybody to send a loan. I can't get a loan to get my new stuff. That's an ask that a farmer can reach out to. And alongside of that, we then ask, well, how are you doing otherwise? So the call might come in because they got financial problems, but then we find out well, yeah, I did, my son, 7 years ago, I lost because he, was lost to an opioid addiction. Oh, that's a big deal. How can we help you with that? Because you're probably grieving that still. He might have been the person that was going to take over the farm. How do we support you? And it's like a little bit of a crack in the door, and we can sort of support that. So that's the frame we try to hold up for this work.
So with the chair's permission, I want to tell the rest of the committee a story, and maybe the folks here from Farm First. When the interstate was built back in the 60s, and I-91 specifically, which maybe you know the story I'm going to tell, maybe not, was moved from Massachusetts up. There was a farmer in Windham County named Romine, that was his last name, who had a couple acre farm. Didn't have power. He had running water, but he didn't have power. And it became apparent to him, I'm not sure what year it was, 60, maybe 61 on the interstate. And they built it in sections. So they would still, you get off at a certain exit and then you take the old road. I'm sure that's what they call it, Route 5 or what. At any rate, it became apparent to him, and he lived alone. He was the son of a pretty large family. I think he had 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, that they were going to come and take his land. And it was through eminent domain, no way around it. He had talked to people to see if they could just take a little bit of a curve around, but it became apparent at some point that they were going to grab it. And he was distraught, and I'm not sure he would have used the EAP, but because he was very stubborn and very much an old Vermont farmer, and had animals on his farm, and they grew crops, and he was dairy. So the sheriff showed up one day, served him papers, and said, "This is it. You gotta, by tomorrow, we're gonna come in and we're gonna take the farm." And he committed suicide that night. Set the barns on fire, let the animals go, and then the farmhouse, and they owned inside. So just kind of one of those stories. Yeah. So today, when you get on 91, you could still see part of what was his land, I think.
Oh, wow. So that's a powerful story. Thank you.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring people down.
Yeah.
Well, but it's true. And you can look that up. And his last name was Romine.
I remember hearing the story, not to that depth, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So Angela, tell us more.
Yes. Okay. So I think Mark was able to talk a little bit about, right, the idea of our funding sometimes can be tricky, right? And so there's obvious gaps. But I think that's where the creativity comes in, of us trying to be creative and trying to be flexible when we serve this population. We're always looking for grants, and we're looking for opportunities to sort of continue. I would say what we see a lot of is dairy farmers. We see veggie berry farmers. Yes, your farmer is maybe your 7-year-old male dairy farmer, but it's also like your 30-year-old flower farmer of a female who's on Instagram, right? And is in touch with her emotions and her feelings and wants to get care. So a lot of what we see is relationship issues, whether that be within the family or within their staffing. I think a lot of people sign up to be farmers and they say, I'm going to be a farmer. Oh, but now I need a staff. Oh, and now I need to manage this staff. And then that creates a whole list of problems, right? Almost like the teacher who goes into the classroom to want to teach and doesn't realize that they have to deal with all of things, right? And it's complex. That's what we are. And so that is where communications, boundaries, workplace issues fits really nicely with EAP, where we're able to address that. Concrete skills. We're implementing therapeutic processes to be able to discuss and talk about that. And then also education. Locations, Northeast Kingdom, Franklin County, Addison, probably 20% of each of those counties, a lot of central Vermont and a lot of southern Vermont. So that's sort of a picture of who we're seeing. We serve about anywhere from 80 to 100 a year, right? That may not sound like a tremendous amount. And each one of those is complex in its own nature. And given that we are sort of small but mighty, we do really good quality work. And we're able to actually move them along the line of bridging them to treatment, getting them a higher level of care of treatment, or just offering 2 supportive home check-ins. Sometimes that's all it takes. And then know that I'm here. You can always call back again, which is fine. So that is where the service can be flexible. What we know about farmers is there's not always health insurance, right? Or they're not making the time to figure out the health insurance, because really there is no time in their life. And so maybe they qualify, maybe they're underqualified. So this is a nice way to be able to gap that. And that's something we can address in the call too. Hey, what do you think about counseling? Did this go well for you? Have you thought about applying for Medicaid? Let's do that, right? Here's what it could look like. Many times I think what I liked what Mark said was we'll get someone in through the door with a call around concern for purchasing cattle, understanding their grain bill, and we'll be like, that's really stressful. The simple art of sort of reflection on how stressful that must be and expressing concern can really go a long way when you're trying to engage someone in care. Yeah.
So I think, the linkage for us for meeting with you is really one for you to be aware. So when you meet a farmer you can offer this as an opportunity. So we'll send you some information about how folks can connect. I also know, you folks are really have been well connected to Hireability. And so we're, as being part of that system of, the voc rehab system in the state, we have sort of an easy entree from our services into that disability process. And many of the farmers we're working with have connections that need disability. And in the past, Hireability has put set asides for folks to get upgrades on their equipment, like some folks need lifts to get into their tractor and those kinds of accommodations, so people can keep farming even though they've got some issues with their body. And so we have lots of connections. We have great connection with the Agency of Agriculture here. Abby and her team do a great job with us and support us very well. We have started to make connections even outside of Vermont with some work we're doing for a grant for the USDA. It's called the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. It's a pilot program to develop resources for farmers and ranchers across the country, and there's different cohorts in different places across the country. We are partnered with the Northeastern cohort and have done some real work, and that's where we developed our peer support system, was through that grant, where we have farmers that are also that people can access directly to talk about what's going on in their world. So that's how we've sort of moving and shaking around this piece. In the past, we have had much more money to do a lot of outreach, where we did marketing campaigns. We had front porch forums, and we pushing people to our website so they get access to the resources there. That has slowed down a lot because we just don't have the resources to do that piece of the puzzle. But we still have that intake of folks that can come in. The 800 number that we have gets to a crisis call center, and they get instant help. If that gentleman had called us that you told the story about, my hope is we might have been able to talk him off that ledge, and maybe he would have then lived to maybe get a farm in a new place that was down the road. So you could have maybe survived that event. That's the goal we have, is to preserve as much of the farming community as we can. So those are some of the thoughts that we just wanted to share with you folks.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have two questions. Is there an appropriations ask here from your group? Is there anything in the budget?
No, we're
Okay.
we're part of Dale, and
All
so
Fair enough.
our commissioner is taking care of that.
And my second one, and this may take a little bit longer, if I were to try to help someone, I would have absolutely no idea how to do that. If I'm talking to a farmer, I wouldn't know if I was saying the right thing or the wrong thing would make it worse. So how are you able to find people that, I don't want to say they're psychology majors, but there must be some training involved so that someone doesn't step on the wrong phrase and all of a sudden make it worse?
We do offer, we've trained a lot of ag service providers, the folks that work, driving the milk trucks, that the co-ops, supporting them to understand how to have some of these harder conversations of like, Joe, I've seen you the last couple of weeks. You're looking pretty sad. What's going on? Can I help? Can I give you a number maybe to call? And so we train them in how to do that. We also offer, you may have heard of mental health first aid trainings. We also do that for ag service and to farmers and communities, where they get a little bit of an insight in how to talk to someone they think is depressed, or maybe they've experienced someone being strange and maybe they're having a little psychosis or something and they don't know what to do. This gives them an opportunity to learn a little bit how to get to resources, but also how to be with that person in that struggle. So we try to do a lot of training around that, and we try to put our magnets and things up so people can just find our number and get there.
It's a great reflection, though, and great to be curious around that. And I think it can be really empowering for people to take that course of mental health first aid. We've tweaked it a little for the farming population to make it a little shorter and a little more, hey, quick nuts and bolts, right? To understand that. But it goes a long way. It goes a long way to just be curious about that.
My dad was I could say shrink, but he was a clinical psychologist with the VA. And so growing up, I sort of, after a while, kind of knew the procedure that I was gonna have, if I wanted the car and he had the keys, we were gonna have to engage each other for quite a while before I got the keys. So I knew how to sort of play the game after a while too, but, he was very good, very gentle man, that kind of thing. And I'm sure he had patients that, loved him, but I wasn't always in that chair.
Pretty funny.
Because I wasn't always getting the key.
Yeah.
What else? Yes.
Well, it's very important. We went to the farmer sold his farm. I met him just prior to selling it. And he was looking forward to it at first. And then once he sold it, he moved just up the road because he staked out. And then I went to see him in scrap business. He had what he thought was great stuff, but all outdated. And his wife finally says you need to get rid of it. And when I met him again for the second time, he had lost all his weight. I made the wrong decision. He was in a dark place. I think he's doing better now because his wife got help in that. And of course, being a farmer, because I grew up on a farm. Hey, feelings? We don't have feelings here. Still then.
Yeah.
So it good. And being a farmer, was able to talk to him. And, he found that life was worth living at, and because he was really thinking about that's it. I don't know. He left for a couple of weeks. They went up to something up in Maine, and we cleaned up his whole property.
Nice.
When he came back, we had it organized, and that really, he's like, oh, it can get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him lately, but
Yeah.
it's something. I'm glad you're out there and be able to say, hey, check this box. It's kind of like what the soldiers had, and the airmen had.
Yeah.
For, in the service that we have.
Mhm.
Forget the name of it at the moment, but some soldier first or something that we know we can turn to and make a phone call.
Yeah.
Like you said, the nice thing is, person at the end of the line doesn't know who you are. You're making judgments. So it's great.
Well, those experiences you just described with that transition of that farm, that's mostly it's the community that are our ambassadors, and so it's a little bit of, we've touched one person in Addison County, hopefully they've touched three and they've shared maybe a little bit about what they experienced. And then those people trust it and say a little bit about that. So that's that. We really get a lot of support from word of mouth. And that's why every client we meet, we want to be there for, because they're going to carry our message forward. So that's a really good example of how that could work. So I'm just really grateful for the work you folks are doing to support this community. So thank you for that. And thank you for that opportunity to talk a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Ingles. We had the agency in, and I can't remember what form it was, but there's a suicide kind of reference. Maybe not saying that the right way. Does that link to your number, or do they have their own? It seemed like you could go on their website and access the number.
Was it on Agency of Acts website?
Yes.
Huh.
And I don't know whether
Dig a little deeper to know that.
there would be some coordination there.
Yeah.
So I haven't been on that website for a while. There's usually 988 is one of the big numbers right now for any kind of suicide prevention. That's
Okay.
that national number now that they've got really going.
Maybe that's what's on.
It's 988. And the good part about that phone number is if for example, Vermont people who operate 988 are busy, it bumps to someone close by and they can help. We have our own crisis number that if people see us on our website, there's a toll-free number they can call. It's 24/7. They get access to that clinician. They do a brief little assessment to see what's happening, how much risk there is. They have a back door into VSP, so that if someone's really in need, they can kind of get somebody out to that farm and stop something bad from happening. So we've got systems in place to help with that. And so.
Great.
Well, good. Have you guys told us what you'd like us to hear?
We have,
We have.
Well, thank you very much. And, again, Senator Major and I have had several conversations about that fateful day, because I do think it was that fateful day. It started out with a conversation, a lot like what you guys do. It all starts with a conversation, right? And, so you opened our eyes up to it, and we're very appreciative of what you do for our farming community and for everyone else as well. Right, so,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the
thank
time.
you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah, for coming. The committee, want to thank you guys for a very strong week. I think we went from wondering how the heck are we gonna get through 17 seconds to starting to figure it out. Let's path forward, and I think that we're gonna be in pretty good shape. I like you know, I want to keep it kind of focused on not giving up on anything, but let's not step on landmines if we don't have to. And let's try to keep everything we have in front of us and in our control, as you know, as much as we can. But other than that, great week. Thank you for your hard work, and you guys all have a good weekend.